All right, hello, you are in the Learn It section. We are doing part one of the coaching impact. And today we are going to do Get Clear 1, section 1 of Get Clear. And it's going to be slides 13 to 23. So make sure to have your reflection PDF handy. I'm going to share my screen. And here we are. Okay, this section does not have a lot of variation from your live experience. Some subtle shifting of some slides, but really in general, it's quite similar in essence to what we're experiencing in our live experience. One change right off the bat is you can see that we've slightly shifted the location of this question. This is our check-in question. Everything else about this slide remains the same, but we have moved it up a little bit. Kind of before we really jump in, and you can see the color coding. It's like we've kept it outside of Get Clear and as part of just our general discussion on how we are coach-like with one another. Right, so the color has changed and kind of helps us to navigate what is this section about. And we're talking about it first now. But otherwise, everything else here remains the same. Would it be useful if I got clear? Is like a bonus question. It's our consent question or an opportunity to ask for permission, to not assume that just because somebody has shared a challenge with you, that it is the right time for all kinds of coach-like curiosity, because it might not be. So that is going to remain the same. All the PL notes, the program leader notes, the facilitator notes are the same. And I'm going to just right now. Okay, no, that's good. Okay, so that gets us into love it. Okay, great. Now that we have that extra question, let's start. I talked about those 3 coach-like moments. Let's start with getting clear. This is going to be similar to you. So you're going to have a same conversation here. What will be different, as we're not asking people physically to move around in the room, of course, but we will ask them similarly about this. Raise your hand. Have you been there? What do you notice about these types of conversations in your organization? A typical conversation takes forever to get to what matters, but what we're suggesting is that a coach-like conversation gets you to what matters a lot faster. So everything else here remains the same, and that are mastering this concept of getting clear, really understanding what the challenge is before we move forward with trying to fix it, is so critical. And that this is really what this next section is fundamentally about. We don't want to waste people's time, and who the heck has the extra time, right? So very similar ideas here. So that takes us to, let's talk a little bit about why this idea is so important. You can see here that language is similar as before. It does feel underutilized. It seems like we just rush. What is the problem? So-and-so didn't do the report. Great, rush. Let's just get on with it. We make so many assumptions about what we understand the challenge to be. So we're just begging people to say, I wonder what could happen for that organizational context that we're trying to achieve if we just slow that down and really made sure we were actually on the same page about what the problem actually is, right? So we're going to practice. So we get people to practice. Here is a slightly different way around getting people to do their challenge. Normally, highlight it here, in the virtual, we say allow 1 minute. Generally, as I kind of alluded to in the previous part, is still often a bit of a like, oh, I'm not ready. So if you have had the opportunity last time around to ask them to think about it, then this is a nice bonus space, right? Think about a challenge. Think about a challenge that you might want to leverage. If you haven't had time in your previous few slides to ask them to do this, then this is your chance. It's only a minute, so it's a lot quicker, but it's still, just like in live, it's still an opportunity to get people to think about, okay, well, what, yeah, is it a process? Is there a relationship challenge, something that's not working? Is there a deadline that I can't meet? Whatever it is, you'd still facilitate it in a very similar way, just a truncated amount of time to get people prepared. You can see, I'm going to keep saying it just intermittently. I won't say it on every slide, but you can see when there is a worksheet space, And so you're going to want to make sure you're calling that out and you're letting people know where to get to that spot in their worksheet. So they're going to have some time to do that. And then we're going to say, we're going to get to practicing. Similar experience here. They're going to start by practicing that consent question. So that might look like, and it might be worth sharing this with people because sometimes it's harder to conceptualize this in virtual. So that might look like you and I, we hop into the breakout room. There we are. Actually, let me double check. I want to make sure. Yes. So you and I hop into the breakout room. There we are. The assumption is that before we've even hopped into the breakout room, I have just shared like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is going so poorly. And there's this, and then there's that, and I'm so frustrated and I don't know what to do. The assumption is that moment has already happened. And then we hop into the breakout room. And if you're the asker, you go, whoa, Chantal, that sounds like a lot. Would it be useful if I asked you some questions so that we could get clear? Would it be useful if we got clear? And unless there's, of course, a safety net reason why this isn't the right time, the assumption for our time together is that I say, yeah, it would actually. And then you, if you were the asker, you would say, nice, okay, with everything you just shared, what's the real challenge here for you? And then we begin, or not begin, we've already begun, we continue the exercise. All right, so we're going to help people understand that. Help people understand that's the expectation when they hop into that breakout room. This is your script. These are the 2 roles. There's only going to be 2 roles this time around. Asker, answerer, somebody asking the question, somebody answering. You can see here that there's some specifics. How long are you going to have? You'll let people know, remind them of the safety net, tell them who's going to go first so they don't spend any time thinking about that when they hop in. Whoever's wearing the most jewelry goes first, or whoever's closest to a window goes first, whatever the case may be. You equip them with everything they need so that they can hit the ground running. Moderator does the breakout rooms. Boom, they go in there. While they're in there, you advance to this next slide. Right, so they come back. You're asking them, what did they notice? And try to highlight each role. When you were the asker, what did you notice? When you were the answerer, what did you notice? Right, and there's some highlights here, very similar to before, that you're kind of pulling on. You're trying to get them to think about, interesting, the challenge shifted, or it got deeper, or I thought I knew what the challenge was, and it turns out I didn't. Any of those things. Nice, very good. Inevitably somebody might say, oh, I want to just remind people, like this is a note for the entire situation, obviously, but the idea that if some people want to go offline, if some people want to go in the chat only, that any of those work, any of those are a good option. Again, you're managing your time, you're figuring out, do you have time for a few people to come off mute? That's always going to be kind of the interaction for a virtual experience, is trying to figure out when and how to make that work. So you're going to say, great, that's lovely. You're starting to really notice some of the ideas here, but inevitably somebody might start to say something that leans into this. So you can use that to transition to here. If they haven't said anything about this, then you bring it up. Are you starting to notice that, geez, it can kind of feel like a temporary fix? It can kind of feel like, oh, I was working really fast. I thought I was moving forward and creating all kinds of fabulous, possibilities, but I actually wasn't even clear yet on what the challenge was. And because of that, the fix that I had, the strategy that I had to make things better was temporary. I had to actually keep dealing with the challenge. I wasted time looking at something being the challenge when it actually wasn't. I missed an opportunity to help somebody else or develop, right? So at the end of the day, we're trying to get people to start to realize, wait a minute, it's temporary. It's not working as well as I thought. You're continuing to build that case for getting clear. And then you're giving people the opportunity for some ahas and insights before they have a little break, right? So some similarities, some challenges, but that gets us to our first break. I'll say this, when they come back from break, it'll say here, and you use your judgment here on how long you have, 4 to 5 minutes. You welcome them back from break. re-engage with their focus rating. It's a good time to say, okay, it's been a while. We've been doing this for a while now. Where are we at? How are you doing? And we'll go from there to see if they need to do anything to re-engage, if perhaps there's been maybe it's gotten better, maybe it's gotten lower. So it's really an opportunity for them to really think about if there's anything they can do and how they're showing up, and just a mindful moment before we get back into some practice. All right, so that's it for this section. Write down any of your thoughts, concerns, questions, and I will see you in the next section. It's basically Get Clear 2, where we'll continue on talking a little bit more about Get Clear. Remember to stay curious, and I will talk to you soon.